Welcome to episode 6 of Value Stack. I'm Bo, also known as Shaper Funds, and I'm here with my esteemed co-host, Zach, BTC Bat. How's it going, BTC Bat?
Yo, another day, dude. You're moving soon. Sorry for the delay, folks, on the podcast. Bo was planning to move last week, and so we were going to skip last week, and then he wound up not moving last week, so now we're going to do this week, but maybe we'll skip next week. It's summertime. We're here.
We're figuring it out. Hello to all our listeners. We've got quite the episode for you today. We are going to cover a lot of the current events that we missed over the last week or two, including the B word. That was an interesting chat that Jack Dorsey, Cathie Wood, and Elon Musk had. We're going to talk about the new infrastructure bill and how that might impact taxes on cryptocurrency. And then a lot has happened with Bitcoin's price since we last talked. So we'll talk about that, some of the stuff that's going on in the market. And then, so where do you want to start?
Well, lots happened, right? Like we dipped under, since our last episode, we dipped under 30K. We stayed there for a minute, really started testing your conviction. And now we're, flirting with 40K again. So it's been quite, the total class of 2021 has had quite the initiation 6 months, like to go, I'm rich, I'm poor, maybe one or the other. So, let's start with just like what's going on with that.
So I just want to come out and make this very clear. Me moving had less to do with the delay than the price of Bitcoin. I just have to be honest. I don't know how I let it affect me so much, and it's like all I'm doing is buying Bitcoin. I've got no plans to sell it, and I just honestly like lower prices. But there's something about sinking every last dollar of savings into something that just keeps going down, and it's a little draining and impacts my psyche.
Yeah, we're very good bottom signals to each other. Like Bo and I went to dinner last week when it was 29K, and I'm in the same boat, right? Like I'm not selling, and I'm not even like down, but I'm down relative to like a couple months ago, sure. And I think I asked Bo, I was like, dude, are we wrong about this? Like, did I pivot careers and like all of this? Like, am I just wrong? And for the, Bo, for those of you that don't know our relationship, like Bo is my counter signal. So like usually when I'm bearish or when I'm bullish, Bo does the opposite of that. And I also have a counter signal, which is when Bo agrees with me. And for the first time in a very long time, Bo and I were both kind of despondent about the price of Bitcoin. To which, when we got home from dinner, I emptied most of my bank account because I knew that we had to be right. Like we had to be close. You look at like I don't give too much credence to on-chain metrics, but you look at the stock to flow, you look at the accumulation, you look at just like where we are at in like psychology, maybe less data points, but just more feel. And you just got to feel like at that point a week ago, something was brewing that the bottom had to be near. So I'm glad we've gotten a temporary reprieve. We'll see if it holds.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, it would be amazing if we went and tapped 20K. I would be able to accumulate a lot more. But
hold on, my dog is literally eating out of the dog bag of food. I'll be right back.
Oh shit! Yeah. But what happened with me is I was just looking at the price of Bitcoin and just looking at the chart and just thinking this thing's got to go to 20,000. And even though that's a good thing, something I should be happy about, it was still just like, damn, that sucks, Like if everything that I have in Bitcoin is about to get cut by a third, um,
Right.
you know. So yeah, we were both pretty down in the dumps, and then of course the market does the opposite of
What you
what
what you
seems
expect.
obvious. Yeah.
Yep. No, exactly. We're not out of the woods completely, but whatever's going to
Yeah.
happen is going to happen. It's not going to change my long-term strategy. And I'm glad that, I think it's good that we both acknowledge, like, though we felt, somewhat despondent, um, I don't, neither of us ever even thought for a second of selling. It was more like, I'm going to ride this to zero and be wrong, which I don't want to do. So, but I will, because, ultimately, like, this is part of the reason that we have Bitcoin, right? Is like, it is sort of the gut check to the rest of the financial system that's so highly levered and that just is so volatile. And so, the price in the short term is going to go all over the place, but it doesn't change the thesis of why I'm holding it in the first place. And as long as that remains true, as long as it's producing blocks, as long as the decentralization, you can run your own node, it's not been compromised, um, then my thesis has no reason to change. Now, I think we'll talk about in a moment, and maybe this is a good place to segue. And the different like tax levying that the governments are trying to do now, kind of sneaking it in last minute to this infrastructure bill, as they always do, right? They just like sneak it in and force it and get it to pass. This is exactly why, like, because we have no say so, and the people that are making the laws really don't. I mean, I'm not there in Congress. I can't speak for them, but I can judge based on what they propose and legislate. And it looks like they have no idea, because it's so broadly overreaching. This infrastructure bill and the taxes. How are they going to collect the taxes? How are they going to require a hardware wallet manufacturer to track addresses when the hardware wallet manufacturer, by definition, like, doesn't know the public key or the private key? So how can they track? So I think a lot of these are like unenforceable, and trying to like chokehold the on ramps. But yeah, if you want, do you maybe, I think you might have a little better understanding of the contents of the bill, if you want to talk about that.
No, I don't think I do. Other than one thing that kind of caught me by surprise is they said that they're trying to raise, would they say $50 billion in tax revenue annually?
I feel like it was 35. Was it 30?
Okay.
Either way, it's a lot.
So I know
But it's less
I
than,
it's like 6% of the market cap of Bitcoin. How are you going to tax that annually? It makes no
right,
sense.
when that's like a global asset too, not just the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, the part of me that's woke is like, do whatever you want, dude. Like, but then, like, I think there's a point where you can't be overconfident, and you have to recognize that while Bitcoin may be a sure thing, not, as close to a sure thing as, in my mind, as you can get, just because of the backdrop that it's sitting on top of, uh, while it may be a sure thing, your wealth may not be in it, right? Like, they can't take your Bitcoin if you have multi-signature wallet and multiple of the keys are spread out across continents. Government can't get your Bitcoin. But good luck spreading you among, I mean, maybe the government will do that,
Hmm.
metaphorically, but like, you can still be jailed. They can still take away your ability to live a free, or whatever the definition of free is today. It seems like it's changing. But
Hmm.
like, they may not get your Bitcoin, but they can still get you, and they can still make your life a living hell. So, you still have to be conscious of what's going on, and like, we're not out of the woods by any means. We haven't even started the peak of the battle, in my mind. So you have to be conscious of the things you're doing about your security and privacy, and think about what you're doing and how you might feel about what you did 10 years from now, right? Because like all of that's going to be on forever. And that's why the government likes it.
Yeah.
That's why we like it too, to be clear.
Let's talk about the B word. That was just over a week ago. And I don't know if that had any impact on what the price has done since, but what were your takeaways watching the B word with specifically with Jack and Elon and Kathy?
I think it's putting the Bitcoin narrative out there more, which I don't even know that's good for Bitcoin necessarily, but it's good for the billionaires because they'll find that maybe they'll buy some now. I prefer for the billionaires to be the last people to buy Bitcoin, but that's just not how how it works. I think my takeaways were Kathy Wood is an innovator in the investment industry, and is a risk taker too. And she doesn't necessarily go by what's accepted, which I really appreciate. So part of like why, even though ARC funds are like overvalued on metrics basis, I like them anyway. Um, Elon, mixed opinions on his. Honest, like the dude admitted that he personally owns Bitcoin, which we suspected. Now we can confirm. He probably owns a large portion of his, non-investment assets in Bitcoin, if I had to guess. He said he kind of alluded to many times that he's like, when Bitcoin goes down, like I don't feel good. And it's like, yeah. Like he said, he said it in his weird, quirky Elon way. But then he also said he owns Ethereum and Dogecoin. But then he also said that those are very small portions of his wealth and it's more for entertainment. Like he didn't say those words, but that's the takeaway that I got. It's more for just for trolls. I think that he is still maybe misunderstood about the block scaling, but at the same time, maybe I don't know, 100 years from now, when gigabit internet speed is the de facto thing, maybe, but no, still, because the way, like, if you double the block size, it increases the rate of growth exponentially, and so it's like, because then it's it's 2, 4, 6, or 2, 4, like it increases twice as fast, and it's going to outpace technology at a certain point if we let it outpace capacity of storage. And so I think eventually we just go, but that argument was already settled. So I still think he's got a bit to learn, but he also said SpaceX owns SpaceX owns Bitcoin, Tesla owns Bitcoin. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that's about the best I can ask for him out of him. And Jack Dorsey, I think out of all of that, Jack Dorsey is the GOAT. Like this dude wore the same tie-dye shirt that he wore to Bitcoin 2021. And he did not, he kind of scoffed. Like you should rewatch the video and look at his reaction when Elon says the other cryptos. He's just like, he's smart, right? He doesn't make like very obvious facial expressions, but you can tell, you can read his eyes a little. So I think, but Jack, Jack is building a new company, subsidiary of Square that's completely focused on building out Bitcoin, hardware wallets, Lightning development kit, and furthering the Bitcoin ecosystem. The dude's like, he said multiple times, if he wasn't CEO of Twitter, if he wasn't CEO of Square, he would be focusing all of his efforts on Bitcoin, which sounds like he's basically doing anyway at this point. So overall, I thought it was very positive.
How cool is it that SpaceX, which is also like the biggest beneficiary of government contracts, owns Bitcoin? That's pretty
Good
cool.
point. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, and I think what really pumped the price in the last few days, though, was that like I don't know. I don't think it was the Amazon rumor that was then later, proved or walked back, but the Amazon rumor definitely made it spike, or it happened at the same time. But I think what actually made it spike was the liquidations, right? Like you have to, like we mentioned a few minutes ago, like Bitcoin's highly liquidated, both are highly leveraged on both ends, and so it's shorted, it's naked shorted, and it's naked long too. And the same thing, like somebody heavily over shorted it. A little news blip came out. They got margin called, which made them cover their entire position way higher, right? And so like it's the short squeeze. It goes in both directions. So I think that's what happened. Like one short squeeze led to another, which led to a huge one where it jumped up like $3,000-4,000 in 5 minutes, right? Binance futures actually ticked the contract at 48K. So we went from like 35 to 48 in like one candle. But now we're trading about 39 and change last I checked.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the B word conversation was really interesting and really accessible, because Jack Dorsey was out there saying things like he thinks this is going to help lead to more peace in the world.
World peace. That's what he said. What's it all about? World peace.
World peace. And I mean, that's a take that I think most Bitcoiners believe, every Bitcoiner is exposed to, but not many people think about Bitcoin that way or have ever thought about Bitcoin that way. So it's at least gonna, I think, expand some new people's mind that maybe weren't hardcore Bitcoiners, but were listening to those three talk because they had an affinity for any one of them.
Yeah. If you listen to like a lot of, like not like to get all off, like too off topic, but like if you listen to a lot of like Buddhist and Hindu teachings, and they all talk about how like we're all connected and like we're all kind of one. And even Bezos said kind of like when he was in space last week, you know, he really glanced back down at the earth and realized, wow, how connected we really all are. Like we are a part of one system, if you will. So, but the point I'm going with there is that like I think as we evolve as a species in consciousness, we'll realize that we aren't all as separate from one another as we may think, like in this, you know, physical dimension, if you will. And part of the catalyst towards us getting there as a civilization is having some sort of ground framework to build to that point from, right? Build onto that from. And I think, you know, if you look at like look at shows like Star Trek, they don't think about like there's no money in these systems because it's all done, it's all taken care of, everything's free. And I think that we may get there eventually, hundreds and hundreds of years from now, and having a solid foundation of money to help us get to that point where basically technology's just advanced so far due to the efficiency gains from having a foundational money that we can work and trade effectively. I think like we get there eventually. So, you know, again, like I know it is kind of off topic, but I think like Bitcoin is the step in the right direction towards getting us to world peace and becoming more connected with each other. Because like most crime is like I steal for money or I kill for power, which then is like a derivative of like, why do you want power? Maybe because money, like, you know, so I just think like a lot of the effed up stuff that's in the world is somehow you can trace it back to money, and having an uncorruptible form of it will, I think that's probably where Jack is thinking.
Yeah. I think we're all susceptible to seeing people that don't look like us or don't act like us or don't come from the same place as being different, and then therefore lesser. And a lot of evil stems from that. And so, yeah, like a borderless, you know, store of value, a borderless wealth is a step in the right direction. And I mean, it starts very explicitly with things like human rights and being able to give permissionless payments to groups in oppressive countries and things like that. But then it's going to become, you know, like actually, there was a great podcast this week with Katie the Russian on what Bitcoin did. And she was talking about fuck you passports. And that was the name of the episode. So go listen to that, fuck you passports. And yeah, they're just kind of talking about how Bitcoin is kind of a step in bringing down borders and those notions of borders. And yeah, if you can work, I mean, what Katie the Russian does is help people get second and third passports. So if you have passports in multiple countries and wealth that you can take and spend anywhere without permission from anyone, that's just, it's really freaking cool.
Yeah. I think as we get, I mean, I like, I think we're going to get more global and more localized at the exact same time. As we get more global on an economic basis, we're going to get more localized on a cultural, societal basis. We're all, in my opinion, like 2050, we're all on one global currency, Bitcoin, and there's no more nation states. There's city states. And that's not an unusual concept. Like that was most of civilization. It was city states, right? And I think like you can govern more effectively, and you also have a much better ability to just, if you don't like it, leave at the city state level. You don't like Denver, go. You know, but like it's not so easy to just leave a country, especially with the movement restrictions and passports that are all imposed now. So, but I think that's like, I don't think we're going to go towards like full on anarchy. I think we're going to have more localized control where it's more enforceable, right? Like
Yeah.
communities can effectively look after each other on a small basis. That's why people form like neighborhood watches and stuff. But when you try to, you can't look after hundreds of millions of people, and be as effective, because
Yeah.
each little area is going to have its own, like Colorado, for example, like where we're at. Denver metro needs are vastly different from Western Colorado, like rural needs, right? And like same with Eastern Colorado, where it's like completely plains, whereas West is mountainous. Like there's different topography, there's different political views, there's different, like all kind of stuff. There's different laws, like so. I think getting more localized, but staying connected on a higher plane through money, and interconnected in that way, is going to be like how we go.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. Well, just to round out the current events, just one other thing that occurred last week was FTX, the exchange, raised $900 million at an $18 billion valuation.
Yeah.
Those are really big numbers. They raised basically $1 billion. I mean, that's one of the largest capital raises in history. I think Robinhood had the largest because of GameStop AMC, but $900 million at an $18 billion valuation. And just to give a little bit of context,
It's like 5%.
Robinhood, what'd you say?
It's like 5% equity of the company.
Yeah. Robinhood went public today at a market cap of, I think, just about double, 18 billion, high 30 billions of dollars. So FTX is large, and
dude, they kind of came out of nowhere too. Like all of a sudden they're like the sponsor of like a baseball team or stadium, FTX Arena or something
in Miami.
in Miami. Like, damn, dude, and like they just have such a enigmatic CEO, Sam. He's just like, I I don't want to like talk shit about him. I think he's interesting.
Yeah.
I see a lot of similarities between him and like Vitalik. So, but
yeah, I don't want to talk shit on him either, but Jack Mallers is going to completely fuck him up.
Yeah, I mean,
an exchange. I mean, unless you're offering, research and data and, kind of doing like the S&P market IQ, different services and stuff. It's like, it's just an exchange. I mean, they're a dime a dozen, and Bitcoin's the open protocol that matters. And Jack Mallers already has fees. It's effectively zero. So good luck competing with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's transition to our boating accident of the week.
Boating, boating accident of the week. Brought to you by insert sponsor here.
All right, so our boating accident of the week is Trevor Milton, the disgraced founder and CEO of Nikola Motors.
Dude, do you remember when that company went? It was like the first of the SPAC crazes. And I looked at it and I was like, this is just a copycat of Tesla. They literally just used the first name instead of the last name. And then they had the video of the semi truck like going down a hill, and they were like, "Look, it works!" And they just like started it at the top of a mountain and let it roll down, and we're like, "See, groundbreaking hydrogen technology." Gosh, Trevor was like, he got was it convicted or was it convicted today?
He was charged today.
Oh, he's charged. Okay, so he's charged with
Yeah.
3 counts of, I think, 3 counts of fraud. Just he's like, he's in trouble.
They were doing so many funny things, I guess. Like they had I forget, they were showing a truck on stage or something, and it was plugged into the wall. It had to stay plugged in. It didn't even have battery technology. Like,
Yeah. Well, that being said, though, right? Like he raised a ton of money, and
yeah,
when you raise a ton of money like that, and you're corrupt, which we do know due to the nature of what happened, I imagine our boy Trevor hid a little bit of it. So Trevor's doing just fine. And when they got his assets for, theft, fraud, whatever, go to jail, I bet you Mr. Milton's going to have a little bit stashed away for if he ever gets out. Probably when, but if he ever gets out. And for that reason, Trevor, I hope you put your hidden money in Bitcoin so that it preserves its value while you're locked up. Make sure you announce your boating accident in public, though, before you do. And yeah, I'd say for that, congratulations, sir, you are boating accident of the week, which will soon be sponsored. Stay tuned on that. Stay tuned on that.
That just got me thinking. Being a genius and a fraudster, there's like such a fine line. Like Elon, I mean, he's committed fraud. There's no two ways about it. And he now has like the 6th largest company in the world. Thomas Edison, like when you think of Thomas Edison, like that guy, famous inventor, he's done so many good things, but he, I think, like lied to investors for like 15 years before he actually figured out what he was doing. So maybe Trevor just needed a little bit more time, but either way, boating accident of the week.
You'll get him next time, Trevor. Cool. So I think we have one more segment. We've been talking about trying to have this more of a recurring theme. So we've been doing like the boating accident of the week theme, where we feature person in the news. But Bo and I have been talking about just kind of having an ongoing sort of behavioral education, sort of investing tips and guidelines. Not investment advice, right? This isn't investment advice, but more like things and how you can manage your emotions and how you can manage your investment strategies to ultimately deliver more reliable and better results. So this week we want to talk about confirmation bias and kind of like what we alluded to earlier on like how Bo and I were despondent last week. Bo, if as a professional investor and as someone with a lot of experience in helping coach others through this sort of emotional ride that investing can be on, what's your take on like how do you feel on watching the price, and what do you think are some good tips to like watch out for your everyday, maybe someone who's a more beginner investor?
Yeah. I would say the best tip is to just become aware of these cognitive biases, and you can just Google, common behavioral biases or cognitive biases or behavioral finance, and go to the Wikipedia page and see all kind of the short versions and definitions. You could also read books by Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky, Thinking Fast and Slow, Misbehaving by Richard Thaler is a really good one. So I think educating yourself is the first step. And I don't think there really is like a great step after that, other than just being aware. I don't think anyone has a good playbook for how you take this knowledge and really make yourself a whole lot better. Which is kind of the crazy part about it is we're still humans. We still evolved to survive somewhere out in nature. We didn't evolve to survive in markets necessarily. So it's never going to come easy. So like I said, I think, yeah, keeping a trading journal is, I think, also a great way. I think once you become aware of these cognitive biases, journaling before, during, and after you make certain investments, and then maybe a year later after you sell something, writing about it again, and then just kind of looking at how your thinking changed, and then using that going forward. I think that's a good way to go. But I mean, just specific to myself, and right now, it's been weird because I have so much conviction in Bitcoin. Have it's all I think about. It's all I want to learn about. I just have so much fun learning about it. I feel so good about it. It makes me optimistic. It's like it's such a good thing.
Right.
And when I'm really thinking rationally and I sit down and I think about it, I think it's a win-win. Either I'm growing my wealth or I'm getting opportunities to stack more sats. Like it's a win-win.
Right.
But what I've noticed recently is I'm kind of in this place where it almost starts to feel like a lose-lose. And it's just been interesting observing it in myself, because I'm at this point where I have a lot of Bitcoin relative to everything else in my,
How many Bitcoin do you have, Bo?
nope. So um,
So
what I've noticed recently is when it goes up, I kind of kick myself because I think, oh, I still had $10 in my checking account. I could have converted that to Bitcoin. But then when it when it goes down, I'm like, oh shit,
I shouldn't have
I
been so
lost
aggressive.
I lost a lot of money today. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of, priced in US dollars. That's a lot of whatever. So um yeah, it's just been kind of interesting. And I don't know what that means. Does that mean that relative to everything else, my size is too big? And I think no way. I would slap myself in the face if future me could see myself saying that. Um so I don't know. It's just observing that it's been a weird, wild ride. I'm like between two minds about the price of Bitcoin and where I actually want it to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's similar for me, where I get sort of this excitement when it goes down, because I'm like, great, now I can actually make a dent and buy more sats that I can notice. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, I really kind of bought the top at some of, at some purchases. Um, I think that's fine, because like you're always gonna buy it at the wrong price eventually. You're never gonna be able to buy it at the right price always. So there's always gonna be trades that you don't feel great about. Um, Bitcoin's unique, right? Because unlike a stock, it's not stocks are not around forever. Their competitive advantages come and go. Their company leadership can change. Their pricing structure can change. Their whole like everything about the name, like everything can change. And to be fair, like Bitcoin's an open source protocol. Everything can change about Bitcoin too. However, protocol has a lot of incentives baked in to make sure that it doesn't once it starts spinning. So it's like that, what is it? The Newton's principle, things in motion stay in motion, whatever that is. And I'll just go ahead and stays in motion. I don't even know that I think that's been disproven maybe, but My point is that like Bitcoin has these incentives baked into her. Once it starts going, it's really not going to stop because it would be disadvantageous for everyone involved in it for it to change. So when it goes down, when a stock goes down 75%, it's like shit, maybe the company's no longer competitive. Maybe like there's a lawsuit. Maybe I'm had a bad investment. But to me, when Bitcoin goes down, it's never a question of the thesis. It's never like, okay, the the details changed. It's never that. It's always emotional reaction to news that is to the well informed is unaffecting the protocol. Like if news came out that were like, yo, Taproot upgraded and now like 4 million Bitcoin were lost because the Taproot format address like couldn't, like, I don't know, they did it wrong. Oops. That would be concerning. That could potentially affect my thesis, but it still wouldn't change it because Bitcoin can exist with any quantity. But it certainly would be negative for the whole system. So, but like things like that that's why there's been so much testing beforehand, right? And you don't have to upgrade a Taproot. It's a soft fork. So if you don't want to use a Taproot format address, don't. Just don't. Literally, just don't. Problem solved. Whereas like when a company updates their product, their pricing, their whatever, as a shareholder, you are beholden to that. So it's different. I think that's why I don't get so scared when it goes down. Also, I have this kind of sadistic like warmth that comes over me, and I'm like, you know what? If this is how I ruin my life, I at least I was all in, dude. Like I've got my friends, my family, my career. Like I put my money where my mouth was. Like, and so like I can't be mad at myself because I made a while ago a well-informed, an unemotional decision, and I consistently make and reaffirm that decision every single day when I decide to keep my time in a money that's going to store its value better than the alternative, which is the fiat system. So I choose to remake that decision every morning because I could wake up one morning and sell every single sat that I own. I choose not to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard doing anything else, honestly, for me right now. It's just it feels so right and makes so much sense, and it's really exciting. But that in it of itself is a warning sign. Like, check yourself. Like you said, make that conscious, rational decision that there's no blind spots. And we've probably said this before on this podcast, but I mean, where I really turned a corner with Bitcoin last year, last late summer, fall, was talking with you, and you kept telling me how great Bitcoin was and how you were becoming a Bitcoin maximalist. You didn't use those words, but basically Bitcoin was making more and more sense and everything else was making less and less sense. And I was arguing against that, and I kept arguing against it, and I kept arguing against it until I had no good arguments. They were all dispelled, and then I became a maximalist too.
That's literally how it goes. Like to anyone listening out there who is unsure about Bitcoin, I can tell you this from experience. The more you know about Bitcoin, how it works, how it was created, how it's governed, how its technology is like functional about it. The more you know, the more your conviction goes up. It there is no I promise you this. The more you know about Bitcoin, you will become less skeptical of it. 100 out of 100 people. Knowledge is power in anything, but particularly because Bitcoin works and it aligns incentives without a centralized party, you're gonna you're going to read it and you're going to be like, damn, okay, like this aligns with how people are. And because people are a certain way, it's going to happen that way. Yeah, like it's just,
And here's a challenge for any of you that are not fully on board with Bitcoin, and I highly doubt anyone who's not fully on board with Bitcoin is
they're
listening
not
to this point.
listening. Yeah, exactly.
But if you're not,
Maybe like a year from now when they listen in the future.
go out and put out critical research. Like figure out what you think the critical flaw is, and research that point to its end and write about it, and then you'll become a Bitcoin maximalist.
Yeah, and
It's
you'll
just
realize, oh, there's an answer.
yeah.
Like you name it. I mean, at this point, like I kind of felt the same way. Like I didn't really get bought in. Like I had Bitcoin, but I didn't start liquidating other assets for Bitcoin until every rebuttal I had was answered. I was like, energy, oh, damn, okay. Centralization, damn. Speed, damn. Scaling, damn. In anonymous inventor, damn. Craig Wright, damn. Altcoins, forks, like all of them. That's why it took me 4 years to go from zero to where I am now. Like I had a lot of questions about the encryption security. What is the blockchain? What if it stops? What if they manipulate it? What if they you, the legality? Like you name it, man. Like the rabbit hole is so deep. And I tweeted this like 2 weeks ago. I've never met a Bitcoin critic as knowledgeable about Bitcoin as a Bitcoin maximalist. Never. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
Never met one. If you're a Bitcoin critic and you think you know more, we'll have you on the show. I would love to have you on the show because we'll probably get some engagement. But seriously, like the step between you and storing your wealth in Bitcoin is knowledge. There's no secret recipe. It's putting in the work. Another thing that I saw somebody else tweet last week was a bookshelf of just all Bitcoin books. And the subtext was, want to understand Bitcoin? Put in the proof of work, right? And it was a play on like the energy consumption mechanism of Bitcoin security flow model. But it's true. You want to learn it. Like there's no shortcuts to Bitcoin. You got to learn. You got to put in the work to learn it. And that's like we're putting in the work to help you learn it and to help us learn it. Because the more, like Bo mentioned, the more that we talk about this, the more we have to test our own conviction and say, wait a second, like, hold on. You know, because we don't just want to just keep spouting off the same, rote bullshit either. Yeah. So, the best way that you can learn something is to teach it. And so if you want to get more knowledgeable about Bitcoin and increase your confidence and lower your concern, right? That's what I'm looking for. Like I want all the gains with none of the risk. And the risk is kind of like unavoidable, but the perceived risk can be sort of removed. Like if you are that conscious, I mean, you still may lose everything, I guess, if it goes to zero, but you'll be so knowledgeable that you'll weight the probability of that outcome as infinitesimal, and it'll only be contingent on another outcome, which will make it maybe inconsequential anyway, because you'll have other bigger problems to worry about. So that's my rant for the day.
I love it.
Should we send
Let's
out?
end it. Send out.
Was this episode 6?
This is episode 6.
Value investing, Bitcoin, behavioral coaching for behavioral finance, boating aficionados. This is Value Stack Podcast. If you enjoyed it, we'd love if you give that a thumbs up on YouTube. You can follow it. We're on Spotify. You might be listening to this on Spotify. You can sub and get reminders when we get a new show out. Try to do it pretty regularly. We don't do it every week. Maybe that'll change at some point. We'll do it every week, maybe.
Come back next week for episode 6.9.
Ooh. 6.9, eh? Are we going to have an episode 7 in that case, in addition to 6.9?
6.9, and after that's 8.
Okay, we'll just round up.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm BTC Bap.
I'm Shaper Funds.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.